what would you normally recommend when we're discussing like UAT and staging environments for cost saving options?
Yeah, so there's usually a time when it is needed and is not needed. And each of the environments solve different things. So a staging environment, people say, oh, we can't turn this off all the time because it's where we're putting our builds into, staging into it. And there's more value, that's more understandable. Think of a UAT environment, often that's an environment that's used for a relatively short period of time in bursts to test the application out. However, there's large gaps of time, when it's not actually being used. Or, what would the difference be if you have a UAT team that just had a spin-up process that took a few minutes to spin up all the environment, get all the data ready, get all the APIs up in sync, so then you can start testing against it. Another thing that we can talk about as well is development environments and sandbox environments. And these are good things to think about in general. So to help prevent one of the causes that was described earlier of resources that are spun up and left in place, a really useful thing to do is use some sort of infrastructure as code, whether it's CloudFormation, CDK, Terraform, it really doesn't matter, just having something in place. And then putting resource tags in as well so you can turn them on and off. But sometimes developers just want to experiment, try things out, and you don't want to slow that particular piece of innovation down. So a really good use of an extra account to actually help save costs is a Sandbox account. And this is where you tend to give people a bit of freedom into spinning up instances, trying things out. You probably limit the sizes because you shouldn't really have large instances in a development or experimentation account, but perhaps they get killed at the end of the day, the week, the month. So there's this very short window that you're exposing yourself to.
Okay, great. When you mentioned a Sandbox account, were you talking about organization separation within AWS console or a completely dedicated new AWS account? Well, obviously you can do it as a, manage the billing from a master account against it.
With organizations and separate billing accounts, they can either be managed from a billing perspective or you can have permissions go across them. It doesn't really matter. So whichever way you would like to do it is the kind of answer to that one.
Okay, great. And Jon, do you have any other tips or recommendations when it comes to development or staging environments for optimizations?
I think Rob's covered most of that, to be honest. Definitely the sort of pilot-like model where you tear down parts of your kind of development and staging environments overnight or over weekends when they're not being used is a very sensible thing to do. We've also touched on the use of separate accounts. I think one of the benefits of splitting up your environments across Amazon accounts is that you can then identify very quickly where cost is coming from. If all your test and staging and UAT stuff is in the same AWS account as your production workload, and you haven't tagged anything, then it's going to be unclear exactly where that spend's going. There are obvious security and sort of operational blast radius considerations to splitting things across accounts too as well. If you're not doing that, that's one of the things that we would usually recommend off the back of a review is to migrate things into their own accounts on a per environment basis and provide a per developer Sandbox account, as Rob suggested, so that you can track individual spend on a per account basis. Makes life a bit easier.
Excellent. And that would help with security as well, of course, because you're just allocating resources each way.